When Canadians saw the budget that was presented in Canada, I think they could use two words to describe it, and it's sticker shock. And it is sticker shock about the number which was presented as the deficit, the $78 billion. This was, of course, $16 billion more than the Prime Minister promised during the campaign. It is double what the last Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau, had spent, and he had spent more than all Prime Ministers combined, and it is the most that this country has ever spent outside of the pandemic years. Let's go through some more numbers. There's over $90 billion of new spending, and the Liberals have called these generational investments, but they are in fact generational debt. And I'll talk a little bit about what this budget means for those who will have to pay for it later. But some more numbers, and what I mean by generational debt is that the Liberal government will add more than $320 billion of federal debt over the next 5 years, over the cycle of the budget. And again, that's more than Justin Trudeau was going to add, because he was at about $154 billion. The budget adds, I should say, $10 million of debt every hour. And why that matters, of course, is because, like any other debt that Canadians would incur, they pay interest on that debt. We're going to pay $55 billion just to service that debt every single year. And what that means is that isn't money that's going to doctors or hospitals or nurses, but it is, in fact, more than the government transfers to the provinces in healthcare. It is also the amount that the government collects in sales tax, in GST. So that means that every dollar collected in the sales tax by the federal government, again, is not going to go to doctors or hospitals or nurses, but it is going to go to bankers to service that debt. The weak economic performance in this budget is also something that should alarm Canadians, more than just the sticker shock. It's got real GDP growth in 2025 at 1.1%. That's the second lowest in the G7. Unemployment averaging 6.4% over the coming years, and an industrial carbon tax that remains in place and will actually get higher. These should all be concerning, but what is most concerning about this budget is that it tells a story of two different Canadas. It tells the story well, it creates effectively two different Canadas. Those who work for wages, who see nothing at all in terms of relief in this budget, and those who invest for income. And you've really targeted those two as very different. The problem is that the first group, those who go to work every single day, who collect a paycheck, well, they don't see anything in this budget. And it is concerning. This country has an overwhelming amount of potential. And it seems that at every turn over the last 10 years, that potential has been squandered. We have everything the world wants, and we should be the richest country in the world. But we've got a government that's spending away our future on a credit card with very little to show for it. We've got a federal bureaucracy that has grown by 99,000 workers over the last 10 years. And now a government who can't say where those reductions will come from. And by the way, none of your services have ever gotten better. In fact, you wait longer for services. You wait on the phone with CRA only to maybe get somebody, and if you do get somebody, 80% of those answers have found to be incorrect. It takes you longer to get a passport. It takes you longer to reach anybody on the phone. And yet, the public service has grown and the services have gotten worse. And that's what you end up paying for in this budget. But more about the tale of two Canadas. If you draw your income from a portfolio, this budget might have a few things for you. It has some of the good ideas that we had brought forward in the last election campaign, although it doesn't go far enough. We can talk about resource development. This government has been beating its chest about a pipeline announcement that is going to come to to the table at some point, whether it's in 6 days or 6 weeks or maybe not even at all. But in the case that it does come, because the Premier of Alberta has talked about it, the news media is all talking about it like there's a done deal, this is a government that invests in more bureaucracy rather than just going ahead and getting out of its own way. You see, in order to build a pipeline in this country, you've got to get rid of things like a shipping ban off of the West Coast, and we would applaud the government if they actually just came out and said what they were going to do. You'd have to get rid of an oil and gas cap in order for anything to be filled in that pipeline to be able to take it somewhere, and eventually to Tidewater, where there is still that shipping ban. You'd have to reduce the industrial carbon tax, or at least make sure that that particular project didn't have that in the way, just like Canada LNG. All of these things need to happen in order for a pipeline to get built. And all of these things probably will eventually happen while members of the party opposite will drag their feet kicking and screaming. But it is this Prime Minister who sabotaged all of that during his tenure of an advisor to this government. When the Prime Minister canceled the 2016 pipeline, or when he got in the way of it, frankly, being built and put in that shipping ban, it was this Prime Minister who cheered him on from the sidelines. You can read it in his very own book. And when I talk about the budget and squandering the potential, these are the things that we're talking about. This country has the smartest people in the world. We have enough food to feed ourselves and feed the rest of the world, and instead there are 2 million people lined up in a food bank, 4 million people that are going to use a food bank in Canada, and the government wants to be thanked for introducing a food program, because that's their answer always. Their answer is to create more bureaucracy. When they can't get a project built, they announce a project management office that's going to shuffle papers and eventually give an approval for something that has already been approved in the case of one pipeline, if we speak about it. Or if they cause food inflation to soar with their hidden taxes, like an industrial carbon tax that raises the tax on producers, a packaging tax that raises the tax on the buyers and the purchasers of food, or any of the other hidden food taxes, they come in with a big government program to ensure that Canadians will thank them. While the 2 million people are still in the food bank line, and food costs here 40% more than it does in the US. It's always about centralization. It's always about making sure that you are to thank them for bringing in yet another government program to get rid of the problems that they themselves have caused over the last 10 years. That's the tale of the two Canadas. Those who work for a living, who are constantly trying to get further and further with less and less. An inflationary budget that spends $78 billion is going to ensure that that gets better, and that gets worse and not better. Today we have Canadians, young Canadians, 9 out of 10 who don't believe that they will ever buy a home. And the government's answer to that was to create yet another fourth housing bureaucracy to try to get houses built when the first 3 didn't work. They've dumped $13 billion into yet another government project. I think Canadians who work every single day, who go to work for wages, are wondering what the heck is in this budget for them and where they're going to see some reprieve. We have a lessening standard of living in this country, and the fear that we have is that young people will just get used to this idea. They will get used to the idea that they can't afford a good meal, that they can't afford a home to purchase, that they can't afford a good quality life in what should be the richest country in the world. It wasn't like this 10 years ago, and this budget does nothing to alleviate that pain, to alleviate the pain of those who go to work every single day and who are looking at this government for answers. They have provided none for those people. And that's why the Conservatives cannot and will not support $78 billion of new inflationary spending that will raise taxes and inflation on every single Canadian in every single part of their life.
Questions and comments. The Honourable Parliament Secretary to the Government House Leader.
Yes, thank you, Madam Speaker. You know, suffice to say, I disagree virtually with everything that the member opposite has said. When you take a look at the national budget that we brought forward, it's received wide spectrum of support in virtually every region. I even believe Doug Ford, the Premier of Ontario, wanted to see this particular budget passed. We have a Prime Minister that has been working with provinces, Indigenous leaders, and so many other stakeholders to build a stronger, healthier Canada. Major projects, investing in Canadians, and so forth. Yet all we hear from the Conservative Party is negativity. That's it. My advice to the member opposite and to the Conservative caucus as a whole is that Canada is not broken. Canada is still the very best country in the world to call home. And that is what we continue to work for on the government benches, to build the strongest, healthiest economy in the G7, Madam Speaker. That is our goal, and we will achieve that goal. And it's more of a comment than an actual question.
The Honourable Member for Thornhill.
Seems like it's always a comment from that member. Madam Speaker, I said in this House that Canada has the utmost potential. The smartest people in the world, the resources that everybody wants, enough food to feed the world, and we are squandering that every single day by higher deficits, higher inflation, higher taxes. We have red tape in the way of building homes and mines and factories and pipelines, and we simply want to see an end to the inflationary deficit, cutting taxes for everyone, a government that actually rewards hard work, and one that will restore affordability for every single Canadian. I know that's not too much to ask, and I know the member opposite understands the value of an opposition to an unchecked Prime Minister.
The Honourable Member for Abitibi-Témiscamingue. Thank you, Madam Speaker. I was interested in hearing my colleagues speak about the impact that this budget will have on taxpayers. I'd like to hear from her about whether it's appropriate that the federal government is using public monies for a pipeline, for example, Trans Mountain. And we see that elsewhere in the budget. We see tens of billions of dollars invested in the oil and gas sector while the government is ignoring the forestry industry. So much money is being invested in the tar sands. Is it appropriate to invest so much public money into this sector?
Member for Thornhill.
Speaker, we wouldn't have to do that if the government just got out of its own way and reduced the impediments to resource development in this country, who approved projects in a way where private sector proponents would want to invest here, to lift the oil and gas cap, to stop the shipping ban, to lower the industrial carbon tax so it makes sense, or actually just, as they are going to do in this project, stop that from even being charged on the project when it is announced. We're going to applaud the government on announcing a pipeline. We're just not sure if everybody on that side agrees.
The Honourable Member for Pitt Meadows, Maple Ridge. The Honourable Member for Pitt Meadows.
Pitt Meadows, Maple Ridge. Thank you, Madam Speaker, and thank you to the member for sharing her thoughts about the economy and the budget. I wonder if she agrees with me, or if she's as perplexed as I am right now, with comments that the Prime Minister has made regarding the fact that he was asked about if he's been in communication with Donald Trump, and he said, who cares? He said there's no burning issue. That, given that 75 to 80% of our trade is with the States, that mills are closing down, that in British Columbia, that our automobile sector is losing jobs, and I wonder if the member could comment about his nonchalance.
Member for Thornhill.
I think for all of those watching, the Prime Minister ran an election predicated on the biggest impediment to Canada's growing economy, and that's U.S. trade tariffs. So to hear him say, I don't care, I want those who are watching at home to know that Conservatives care. The Conservatives care about the job losses in the auto sector from Windsor and Oshawa and everywhere in between. They care about the tariffs that have now tripled on steel and aluminum. They care about the jobs in the forestry sector. There is one party in this House that cares, and that is the Conservative Party. And I want Canadians to know that we're never going to write off the relationship with the U.S. as an I don't care, nonchalant moment. That's not what a leader does. That's not what a leader should do.